The Goat is back with some sneaky good undrafted free agent signings. We did a video on the top 15, the very best undrafted free agent signings. That one's blowing up, so I thought I'd talk about some sleepers. How about the Raiders signing Minnesota pass rusher Ja Joyner, a guy that definitely looks the part. He has the physical traits you look for, 6'4", 34-inch arms. That's what everyone's looking for. And if you go back to 2023, well, I mean, right now, it's not a surprise this guy went undrafted. You know, people aren't really floored that he went undrafted. But if you go back to his 2023 season, it felt like a guy that was for sure going to get drafted. He had more production, but if you watch him on tape, he was exploding off the ball, showcasing some athleticism, and I think that resulted in him getting more production. 2024, you just didn't see him doing that. He was a little slower off the ball, a little bit more patient, and that's really not something that disappears in pass rushers, right? He's got it in him. Maybe Minnesota wanted him to focus on setting the edge a little bit better and not just going all out for the quarterback every single snap. But he's got the traits. He's got some athleticism. He's got some good play under his belt. Maybe he gets back on track to 2023. The Raiders also didn't draft another pass rusher, and they kind of needed a depth guy, so it kind of also gives them an opportunity to make this roster. So a pretty good one here for the Las Vegas Raiders. The Patriots signing Elijah Ponder, a small school pass rusher from Cal Poly. I really thought he would get drafted. He wasn't this big name that was for sure supposed to get drafted, but he's kind of the classic textbook late round flyer. Small school kid, very productive, has athletic traits that you look for, tested off the charts. So I really thought someone would take a shot at him in the 7th round. That didn't happen, and the Patriots got him undrafted. So this is kind of a sneaky one here. They could definitely use some depth at the position. And again, like I said, super athletic. You could see him win with that explosive ability. You could see him win with power at times as well. Has the right length. He's very productive when it came to getting sacks and just getting tackles for loss, getting in the backfield, causing problems. So it's going to be a sneaky one here, small school kid. How about the Bengals signing Notre Dame defensive tackle Howard Cross? So back with Al Golden, Notre Dame defensive coordinators, now the Bengals defensive coordinator, so he fits that defense. The Bengals also didn't draft the defensive tackle, which a lot of fans wanted them to. We know they've been underwhelming at that position. So him coming in there as an undrafted free agent, knowing the defense, and he's played very well even since the second he stepped on the field at Notre Dame. He's got a decent shot to make some noise, but not really a surprise he went undrafted. Severely undersized, lacking length when it comes to arm length and height. But, 2023 monster season for him. We're talking about, even though this guy's lacking the size you look for, this is a legit ball player here. So, feels like the Bengals got a solid one, and again, he's a plug-and-play instant fit. The Chiefs signing Maryland safety Glendon Miller. This is a sneaky one. I liked him. I thought he would get drafted even though he had absolutely no buzz. But I just remember watching him in 2023, and that's where he really stood out. So a lot of these guys, that went undrafted, maybe they were better in a different year. But I thought this was, in terms of projecting to the NFL, I thought this was the better of the Maryland safeties. He's very athletic. He's very lengthy. I just catch him getting downhill, being physical, tight in coverage, can play man and zone. This guy's possibly has a future. I felt like the Chiefs needed some depth at the safety position as well. Remember, they lost Justin Reed. They, of course, have replacements for him, but they definitely needed some other options. They do a really good job of finding kind of sleepers, sneaky guys in the secondary and developing them the right way. So that's definitely one to watch. He's very, very underrated. The Saints signing Marcus Yarns, the Delaware running back, super explosive, home run hitting guy, very athletic, sees the hole, hits it, could be gone if he does hit it as well. I got some upside catching the ball in the backfield. Saints definitely could benefit from adding a couple running backs. That's what they did. They had Devin Neal in the draft, and undrafted they had Marcus Yarns. And it made sense that he went undrafted, even though everybody knew about him because how good he was at Delaware and how much of a freak athlete he is. But with the insane amount of really good running backs in this draft class, teams are just more, because how often do the small school backs work? Because they got wide open lanes. It's hard to project if they translate or not. So teams are rather taking the really good big school running back even in the 7th round, right? But that doesn't mean all the smaller school running backs are never going to work out. I think he has the talent. I think he's great for Kellen Moore's offense as a depth piece, a guy that can catch the ball and he can go. It's just kind of something they're missing there. So I like his chances to put on a good show in the preseason process and possibly make the team as a little bit down the depth in terms of that running back position. Mario Williams, Tulane receiver, signing with the LA Rams. This is a super sneaky one because Mario Williams, going back to high school, was a legit recruit, and he was following Lincoln Riley everywhere for a bit. Goes to Oklahoma, and he wasn't super consistent, but he had these flashes where you're like, all right, as this guy starts to play more, he's going to be legit. Then he follows and goes to USC, and there was a season with USC where I thought he was legit. You wish there was a little bit more, but you could see, this guy might be a future legit NFL prospect. He is super quick, super speedy, can separate, can track the ball downfield. And then it kind of just didn't work out. And he was kind of doubted a little bit because he's very undersized and he wasn't super consistent. But he goes to Tulane. He ends up at Tulane, and he was very productive, very, very good for the Green Wave this year. And he goes undrafted, but there is upside in there. And this is kind of a receiver the Rams look for. They like guys that are athletic. They like guys that can track the ball down the field. Maybe another Tutu Atwell. They didn't care that he was a little undersized, and they lost to Marcus Robinson, a really good downfield, speedy, tracking the ball. They lose him in free agency. So in receivers, very important to the Rams. They have a collection of guys that get reps, throughout, every single week. So this is a guy that has a shot to end up being that Mario Williams that we expected here. I think a really good landing spot for him, a really good pickup for the Rams. The Vikings signing Georgia tight end Benjamin Jurasic, and you got to go back to 2021 with him. I know it's pretty far back, but 2021 when he was on Stanford, this looked like a future legit NFL tight end prospect. He was very productive, always getting open, was a big threat on that Stanford offense, and he was so good that he eventually found his way to Georgia. They lost Brock Bowers this year, so if you end up on Georgia, you're doing something right. And he just kind of dealt with injuries recently in his recent years, and that was kind of his main problem. He's a little bit older of a prospect, so if he could stay healthy, this is a guy that could be really sneaky. Again, kind of if you get him back on track to where he was playing at Stanford. And the Vikings badly needed tight end depth. Yes, they drafted one in the Pittsburgh tight end, but adding another one here is pretty big. And if the guy comes in there and showcases what he did maybe earlier in his career, what got him to Georgia, then maybe he can make a team. Small school pickup for the Baltimore Ravens, adding offensive lineman from Middlebury, Thomas Perry. And there's talk about him playing guard or center. The Ravens definitely needed some guard depth. They need some guys that actually compete for a starting job there. So it's a really good landing spot. They're really good developing offensive lineman. He has a decent shot to make the team. He found his way to the East-West Shrine game, coming from Middlebury. So obviously he was doing something right. And then the guy that's known as the offensive line guru, trainer, big-time trainer and scout, has been right a lot when it comes to offensive lineman. That's Duke Manyweather. Praises a guy of Thomas Perry. So that means something right there. So maybe the Ravens got a sneaky one here that can make the roster and work his way up what is a position of need for the Baltimore Ravens. The Jets signing Michigan running back Donovan Edwards. Now, this isn't a sneaky or sleeper name. This is a big name that just completely lost his draft stock / draft value from 2024. From 2023 going into 2024, because 2023, this was a legit prospect of the future. Home run hitting running back, can catch the ball very, very well, could run routes very well, and was a big part of that national championship team. Was a big-time threat in that offense. And Harbaugh leaves, and maybe that had something to do with it, but Edwards lost a lot of snaps, and it's just underwhelming. It's kind of proven that he's not an every-down back, but he doesn't really need to be. He's super explosive. Like you said, he's a threat in the passing game. So it's a guy that could kind of get back on track here, right when everyone's kind of doubting him. And the Jets, there's a lot of talk about them maybe replacing Breece Hall, moving on from him now or near future. So if you look at it like that, they need another running back in there. So they could definitely, look to use Donovan Edwards in some sort of road. And they want to be the rotation, group. Aaron Glenn they bring in. They want to try to do what the Lions did with the 1-2 punch. And, Edwards is nowhere near Jahmyr Gibbs level, but this is another high-end rotation, potential high-end rotational guy that can catch the ball. He can even line up in the slot, run routes very, very well. So maybe they look to use him. This could be a sneaky one for the New York Jets. So there you have it. Some guys that really stood out as sneaky / sleeper undrafted free agency signings. And you kind of can tell they all had something in common. They all, got traits or a lot of upside, or if they get back on track to a previous year, they're legit. They're really good. Like a lot of these guys were supposed to be easily drafted based on a previous season. So some sneaky guys here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you haven't seen it, the first version of this, which is the best undrafted free agency signings, go ahead and check that out. That was a fun one. We got all kinds of content in the channel and more to come. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.